How y'all doing, everybody? It's Jake Allonar here on WrestleLink for Thursday, April 29th, and I got a very special guest for the edition today. He writes reviews at postwrestling.com and is one of the main echelons of the Up Next podcast. You can hear him every week as host of the Shot in the Dark podcast as part of the Post Wrestling Network, where he recaps some of the more niche content that the world of wrestling has to offer. Man, and he's just an excellent guy in general and has a wealth of knowledge. So he is Mr. Siino Evil himself, John Siino. How are you doing, man?
Jake, how's it going? I'm doing great. Thank you for that introduction. Pleasure to be on here on the show.
Yeah, thanks so much for doing this, man. I wanted to have you on because you cover a lot of stuff, and you not only that, like you watch a lot of stuff every week. I just wanted to ask you a couple things
Sure.
before we go over what's been going on in wrestling this week. Uh, Obviously you're a huge wrestling fan, and you represent the Post Wrestling family of podcasts. I can see your I can see your Post Wrestling hat on top of you. I'm representing the MCU Post Wrestling Network
Nice.
as well. Really enjoying it. It really is a great community and all that. How did you become a wrestling fan, and what was about the genre that really captivated you into following it for many years?
I mean, I've been a wrestling fan as far as I can remember. Honestly, my mother always jokes around that like she used to watch wrestling back when she was pregnant with me, and she feels like whenever I want to say when WrestleMania 1 was on, she was actually pregnant with me at the time. I was a couple months away from that. So she used to joke around that I used to always kind of kick in her stomach whenever like a wrestling was on, and she would watch it with my father and a couple of her friends. So she's like, "Oh, this guy's gonna grow up to be a wrestling fan."
That's
And
awesome.
just having two older brothers who were heavily into it. I mean, my brother loved British Bulldogs and the Hart Foundation and Demolition, so Legion of Doom. So I feel like I was always like into like tag team wrestling to begin with. So I started following it, and yeah, I literally just caught on to it. I started watching. It was mostly WWF at the time. Just kind of growing up in New York, that's really what we had. But then like my cousin put me on to like WCW or NWA at the time, and then like Japanese wrestling. Like he had one of those illegal boxes, so we like one time just saw like one of these WCW versus New Japan shows, and I was like, oh my god, there's wrestling outside of WWF. This is crazy. So I just got hooked to it, man. My friends, obviously going into school, it was a little the Attitude Era. So we just always in New York, we always had shows at Madison Square Garden or at the Westchester County Center. So wrestling was very easy to kind of like go to, just see it not only on TV but to actually witness it in real life. And that's what really hooked me. And ever since then, yeah, I just started watching and never really stopped.
So you were a teenager during the Monday Night Wars. I mean, that has to be a great time to be a fan, just to be captivated by it.
Yeah, I was like literally 13, 14, right around the time of like Stone Cold Steve Austin and The Rock and everything. So I loved it. And of course, my brother's being a lot older than me. They would take me to these shows, and we went to WrestleMania 10 and WrestleMania 11 right before like the boom of the Attitude Era. Then I just kept going on my own as I got a little bit older and just followed as much as I can. But yeah, that was literally like I lived through the Monday Night Wars. I would have a TV in the living room playing Nitro because my mother was more of a WCW NWO fan, and then we'd have the room in the bedroom, me and my brother watching Stone Cold and The Rock. So I would literally be like in between the door, just watching both shows and just VCR here, VCR there, and just I was enjoying the Monday Night Wars. I lived it live, man. It was great. It was a great time to be.
You're living the life, man. That's awesome. For me personally, being born in '97, it's unfortunate I didn't get to live the '90s watching wrestling, but going back on the WWE network, it was such captivating stuff. Looking back at that content, for me personally, growing up here in Chicago, it was WrestleMania 22 when I got introduced to wrestling. My cousin was a huge wrestling fan, and just seeing like the not only just the matches, but like the character development of all what's been going on in the different personalities that WWE had to offer. And it was also the summer of 2006 when I really got hooked onto it was the Edge and John Cena feud, which was a tremendous feud. And I was a huge John Cena fan, still am to this day. The guy is still one of my heroes, and just to see him just overcome those boundaries and Edge was the perfect villain for John Cena because to me that feud definitely made John Cena as a huge main event star. And to see both of them just go at it for months in and months on out was just tremendous. So that was actually one of my favorite feuds of all time. And ever since then, I became hooked onto wrestling. And then I got introduced to TNA. I think it was the year after, in 2007, when I saw Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe, and then I was like, oh man, this is really a high paced good authentic action right here, that TNA, and it was a great alternative back in the day. So I was like, I became more of a TNA fan, to be honest with you. Like that was a really underrated era during the mid 2000s for TNA.
Oh no, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for thanks for coming on, man, because I just have to say, like, I listened to your individual show on the Up Next podcast every week, and you're the host of Shot in the Dark, where you cover where so for those who don't know, Braden Harrington and David Portman, they mostly cover the big shows in wrestling, such as like AEW, WWE, especially their main product NXT. But you also have the time to cover what's been going on, more of the overshadow the under shows in the world of wrestling that's been going on, is like New Japan Strong, as well as MLW, Impact as well. So I just want to ask, like, what is your regular viewing schedule for wrestling?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I'm a single father of a 6-year-old, so that's already tough as it is. But I'm taking this time of being home ever since lockdown. I've been pretty much stuck at home, so I watch more wrestling than usual. Like I would watch wrestling, but I wouldn't like really like watch it as much as I was consuming it. So Davey was kind of like, "Hey, listen, since you watch AEW Dark, I'm always like telling him about what happens, whatever." He's like, "Since you're watching this already, why don't you just talk about it? Here's a format," and that's how I started doing it. But yeah, like as far as like when I do it, like you really, it's when my son's in school, so he's in school from 8:30 to 3 p.m, and that's my time. So I try to take usually it's Mondays and Tuesdays is when I try to catch up to like NXT UK. I have a Ring of Honor that I watch, New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong, which on Fridays, and then the shows that kind of happen on Mondays and Tuesdays, like your AEW Dark Elevation. Those are the shows that I catch up on Tuesdays or even Wednesday morning. So yeah, I try to do at least Monday and Tuesday of wrestling. I'll watch Raw and delay or the next day, whatever. I try to like actually use that downtime to watch the shows I need to cover, and then Wednesday morning I record and I put it up. And then usually days like this, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I try to stay away from as much wrestling as possible. You know, I might throw in SmackDown here or there. Obviously NXT and Dynamite, but as far as like the work part of it goes, I try to like have a Thursday off. So Thursdays, Fridays are usually my off days from wrestling, and obviously like I'm with my son, so I spend the rest of the time with my son. And weekends is off. Weekends he's with his mom, and I have pretty much no wrestling, so that's my time. That's my time to watch a movie or go out and relax a little bit. You know, here in New York, we've been lucky to actually like go out, be place to be a lot more open. So I actually try to enjoy that downtime. But yeah, I try not to consume my life with it. Like as soon as I pick up my son from school, it's no wrestling. So it's like that's it, wrestling's off. And occasionally he'll like watch NXT with me or something like that. So that's pretty cool. The fact that he'll watch like NXT's his favorite brand. Like he won't watch Raw, he won't watch SmackDown. AEW, it's the hit or miss, but he's more accustomed to NXT for some reason. So yeah, it's all about having a schedule, man. It's all about having like that's the one thing that I was always told from Polish Wrestling, Wei Ting in particular, and then Braden and Davey obviously always told me about like having a schedule and make sure you have the set time that you get all your work done. And I do. And ever since then, I've been pretty consistent every single Wednesday.
That's pretty awesome, man. It's pretty awesome that you have that balance in your life. Like, you can set some time for wrestling and just to view it, and just take some time for your family as well. So I definitely need to learn from you every once in a while, man.
Yeah, because that's the one thing I worried was like my son, like he knows that like wrestling is like work to me now, because literally it is, I write reports for Impact, I write reports for MLW, I do podcasts about wrestling, so he knows it's work. So I didn't want him to get, my fear was for him to like had this animosity or hate towards wrestling, because that's dad's time away for me to work. So I try to make sure I do that when he's not around. And then when we do watch wrestling, it's not work. It's not me writing down any reports. It's like NXT or AEW where we just sit down and watch it.
Just sit down as a fan and then just enjoying it.
Have it in the background while me and him play and do Legos or something, or do homework and just have wrestling in the background. So I always try to like make sure wrestling isn't work to him, at least. To me, it obviously is. It's something that I've been doing ever since lockdown. So yeah, that's like the one important thing, is to make sure to separate family from work, which happens to be wrestling right now.
I hope you get a cut of the Up Next Patreon.
I have perks. I'll say that much. Yeah.
Okay, definitely. That's good. That's at least something. So it's all good. Yeah, I just want to. That's pretty tremendous, man. And man, I really love the belts that you have behind you. So
thank you. Yeah. I recently got the IC title there. It's my first replica, believe it or not. I've been a wrestling fan. I mean, I'm going on 36 years old. I've been a wrestling fan for 30 plus years. I've never owned a replica title.
Me neither.
I've been kind of like rearranging my my room a little bit. I was like, you know what? And I saw that they were on sale, and I always like the IC title because that's the belt that's always my favorite wrestlers: Ricky Steamboat, Macho Man Randy Savage, Bret Hart, and Shawn Michaels. Even Steve Austin had this title, so I feel like this is the title that represented my era, my fandom. So I had to get it. And then I'm not the type to bring it to a show or anything, but if I ever find out there's like a signing with Ricky Steamboat or Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels, I might have to get him to sign it for me. But I figured this something was pretty cool. But now the problem is I have one on this side, and now the other side is empty. And I'm like, oh, do I get another title now on the other side? So I'm kind of like contemplating, but I definitely, it was a good sale at the time. So it was a good idea to get it.
Oh, that's awesome, man! Like I got the NWA World Heavyweight title right behind me. I just actually bought it from Amazon just a few months ago, and like I was like you, I was not really like a belt collector and all that, but I think it was Nick Aldis that really encouraged me like to buy this thing, because like this is like one of the most legendary belts of all time. And yeah, I probably would not carry it around to at wrestling shows, but if there's like a signing around here in Chicago, I would definitely try to ask somebody to sign it for me. And yeah, it's like this is a great belt, and I grew up in mid 2000s TNA, and this is the main belt back in the day, so it's really tremendous to have this belt, and as well as the Money in the Bank behind me.
Yeah, if you have a certain connection to something, it's why not own it? It's more about collecting at that point. It's something that represents like your fandom.
That's awesome. Yeah. So yeah, this is pretty great. I just want to ask you, you obviously, we're recording this on Thursday, which is April 29th. And I'm probably going to post this later tonight, after I do a couple of stuff. But a few weeks ago was WrestleMania weekend. Traditionally, it's the biggest wrestling event every year. It's the Super Bowl of professional wrestling. How did you feel coming out of Mania?
Um, it was good. Like last year was so weird, obviously, with the whole lockdown and no fans there. But that I feel like was the start of at least my introduction to like the post wrestling, because that's when I started doing the watch along. So I have a real connection to like that time of last year, WrestleMania. I was doing with Davey and Braided, and obviously all the post wrestling stuff that happened after that. So this year it was a little bit different, obviously, because there was fans there. So my first thought was I kind of want to go to shows now. Like it's been so long.
Yeah,
like the last show I went to, I actually went to the last WWE pay-per-view, which was in Philly for Elimination Chamber. And then the following month in March, I went to either Raw or SmackDown, or maybe both were at Barclays Center. So that was the last time I ever went to a show. So I kind of was like, fear of missing out. It's like, oh, I could have went to this, but did I really want to? I'm still waiting for my second vaccination, which is next week. So I'll be fully vaccinated there, and then I'll feel a lot more safe. And actually, me and Fire Frank, shout out to Fire Frank from the Facebook group, a real life friend, and we work together and everything. We're actually going to go to MLW in Philly in July 10th. They have a set of tapings there. So that's going to be my first time going to an actual show with fans. So obviously, there's a lot of safety precautions that we have to take, but I feel like it's a step in the right direction. As far as how WrestleMania went, it was okay. It was good. Like I enjoyed the show. I think probably I enjoyed night one a little bit more than night two.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like I definitely like the 2-night format. I feel like it gives a little bit more time to breathe, especially if I was somebody to go to this show. Like if maybe I might go to WrestleMania next year in Dallas. Do I really want to sit through an 8-hour show, or would I rather do 4 hours on a Saturday, go out, hang out, and then the next day kind of relax a little bit and then go see another show? I think that's the right idea, honestly, especially for a big show. One time a year is okay. Takeover, I don't necessarily think that needed to be 2 nights. I feel like you could have did one night and had a solid 5-match card, and kind of some of the other matches you could have spread amongst the weeks of NXT. But as far as WrestleMania goes, yeah, it was good. It was a good show. The 2 nights definitely helped it out. But if you look at it as like a combination of both shows, there's definitely some matches you could have cut out. I mean, obviously Randy Orton and The Fiend is one match you could just always forget about. But
yeah, whatever about that. That was atrocious.
But rain delay aside, I feel like it was definitely like it was good to see. It was good to have actual wrestling fans there and feel a little bit of normalcy in the wrestling world again.
I looked back at the replay on Peacock. They cut out the rain delay parts, which is so hilarious.
Yeah, like they separated it, right? They put it kind of like a separate like kickoff pre-show thing, which I think is okay, because like obviously it wasn't part of the main show, but at least don't erase it, because you have some of those promos, they were actually pretty good. They were hard.
Yeah, those promos were really good, dude. Yeah,
they were unscripted, so you should definitely like leave it there, as that was a part of the story. You can 20 years down the line say the first ever rain delay at a WrestleMania. Like don't erase it from history. I've never been like a proponent of erasing stuff, and obviously there's a lot of things going on with Peacock editing stuff out. That's real tricky. I mean, some things you should just take out in general. There's no say about it. But there's other things that happen like in the Attitude Era where I think you could have like a disclaimer, similar to how Disney Plus has a
Absolutely.
disclaimer for a lot of their old cartoons, like a Pinocchio, where there's like people smoking cigarettes, things like
Even
that.
Disney Plus did that. It's like they usually
Yeah.
do disclaimers for some of their old movies, like Bambi and Snow White and Aladdin. So yeah,
Yeah,
definitely knows
and
that too.
as far as I know, like they don't really have that in on the network or Peacock. They might have like
Yeah.
the rating on the top left, but they don't actually give you any sort of warning. I've seen that like even before. I think I was watching. I think it was like Rush Hour came on like after NXT one night, and obviously Rush Hour has a lot of like racially insensitive jokes
Oh
that
yeah.
might have been okay back then. I mean, it's never okay, but back then it was a little bit. It wasn't like looked down upon as it is now. So there was like an actual graphic before the movie even started that says, "Listen, times have changed. We've learned to learn about these things. So like
We
there's
love our
some things
buddy
here
cop
that
movies, but these were concept of the times, and it's there are some things that did not age well. So we're just letting you know about
yeah.
that. So yeah,
So I
that
think
was on the USA Network when I saw that in Rush Hour. So yeah.
yeah, so they could definitely put that like in front of a lot of, especially the Attitude Era or even like the Nitros. There was a lot of shows that can do that. I mean, some stuff you could definitely like take out, like as far as like anything racially insensitive should definitely be taken out. But there's some things that like comedically might not work. That I feel like just a warning or some sort of like statement. Like they haven't really, as far as I know, they haven't even put out a statement about any of the edits or anything. It just kind of happened and people found out about it. So that yeah, they could definitely kind of like work with that. But I've never been a fan of erasing history. It's all about learning from history.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. That's why we learn, like, what happened with our history in World War II and all that. And we definitely learn from history, but we still have to remember some of those stuff, like especially in international history. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's pretty on that. How's everything in New York, by the way?
Everything's pretty good. I mean, we're getting kind of like back to normal. I know they put out some new like mask discrepancies that people have been kind of ignoring anyway. Unfortunately, like some new guidelines as far as like where you wear your mask or whatever.
Yeah, the CDC. Thanks to them though, but
Yeah,
gotta give it to them though.
but I mean, if you go out, I mean, yeah, everybody's wearing masks, but for the most part, people are still kind of living their lives and doing what they can. I mean, as long as you're being safe about it, vaccinations are really good. Like pretty much everybody that I know is either vaccinated or getting vaccinated, so that's good. But yeah, it's slowly getting there. I mean, obviously the mask thing, like the hardest thing for me, honestly, was my son in school because like he's in first grade now, and it was like I didn't want him to go to school like this. It was so weird. Like you look at their classroom, they all have like plexiglass, and then when they go to lunch, they're all kind of separated, one
Oh,
person
that's
per
tough,
table.
man.
It just and it's like
Yeah.
I would have hated to like do that. And I feel bad for the kids like last year that like could even graduate like from kindergarten or fifth grade. They couldn't have their
Their ceremony,
graduation
yeah.
ceremonies. They had to have like drive-through ceremonies with balloons, and it's just like that's the part that like really hit me the hardest. Like because it's out of their control. It's like nobody forced them to do this. Like this is just what happened. This is how they have to live their life. So I'm hoping that like little by little things get back to normal. But yeah, New York is definitely in the right direction. Obviously with some wrestling shows in Philly going by, I'm hoping for maybe New York down the line to have its first wrestling show.
Yeah, I'm graduating in just in a few weeks, and our commencement ceremony is going to be online, which really sucks. But
Yeah, so
it's
Chicago's not really like. I mean, how are you guys doing
yeah.
over there? Like you guys are
Yeah,
kind of
Chicago, we're living our lives with stuff are beginning to reopen again, but at certain colleges and universities, we're still having some stuff online on Zoom. So, and that was definitely a struggle having some lectures on Zoom and trying to stay there for like 2.5 hours. And at least we have some 5-minute breaks and all that. But yeah, it's been a struggle every once in a while. So, and we've been doing it for the past 2 semesters. So thankfully, whoever's still remaining next semester in the fall, we'll definitely have some more in-person stuff. So yeah, so I'm aiming to get my master's starting my master's program in the fall. So I'm really looking forward to getting back in the campus and all that. So
that's good. That's good.
yeah, it's odd. Yeah, Chicago's doing great, man. Yeah, I mean everything's becoming normal now. Like got a lot more people by the boardwalk. It's really beautiful. And when it's like sunny days, and people are still wearing their masks, but overall, we're starting to get some stuff reopened again, and like definitely getting back to that that peace and humility and all that. So really loving that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm actually, like I said, I'm going to Philly. It's the first time I've been out of state since last February 2020. So it's
Oh
like
yeah.
I just kind of want to do things at this point. Like every year, there's the first year where I didn't take my son to either Disney World or Disneyland. We usually do something every year, and we just couldn't do nothing this year, and even last year, so it sucked. So yeah, I'm just hoping that like nobody does anything stupid, and everybody kind of just follows the rules, and just little by little things will hopefully turn back to normal. But I feel like the world that we lived in will never, it's never going to be like that again. Like you're still going to see some semblance of masks somewhere where you
Sure.
go. Probably for the rest of our lives, honestly, just because this is just the life that we've accustomed to. But just closer to normalcy is what I ask for.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, at least I'm double vaccinated, and I saw that a Windy City Pro Wrestling base here in Chicago will start to get some indie events back together again, especially in Villa Park, right outside of Chicago. So I might be checking out some indie events in the next couple of
Yeah.
months. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Chicago is definitely like one of the biggest cities for wrestling, and I feel
Yeah,
like me personally, if AEW were to finally have shows outside of Florida, I think that Chicago is a no-brainer. Obviously, they have a lot of
absolutely.
history there with All Out and All In and everything, so I wouldn't be surprised if Chicago becomes one of the big cities. I could see Philly, New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago being like the top cities outside of Florida to finally get like big shows, big wrestling shows.
Yeah, getting back to the Sears Center and Allstate Arena, I really love those places for wrestling, and obviously you guys have the Garden and Barclays, so that's still tremendous history over there, man.
Yeah, you know what sucks? Like last year, like I said, I went to Elimination Chamber in Philly, and I was like, it was a good experience. Like, and I was like, you know what? From now on, I kind of want to go out a little bit more often and go visit more cities, not just for
Oh
WrestleMania, but just for
man,
wrestling in
yeah,
general. And
yeah.
literally, like 2 weeks after that is when like all this happened. I'm like,
All
there
the
goes my
pandemic
plans.
came together, man. Yeah, it's
Yeah, like
unfortunate.
I've never been to Chicago, and that's one of the cities I want to go to. But I've seen wrestling like in Texas, Cali, and a couple other states. But I was like, this is the year. This is the year where I want to go and watch wrestling. So now I feel like I have this inside of me. So when I finally can and things are safe, I feel like I'm gonna actually go and visit a lot more cities. But Dallas, as far as WrestleMania goes, I think next year that's good. I've been to Dallas before and it's beautiful. And I feel like by next year WrestleMania might be a little bit more safer overall. So I feel like that's gonna be my my first big adventure as far as like outside the Northeast at least.
Okay, so let's get some thoughts about what's been going on in the week, man. Obviously, I actually want to start with AEW Dynamite last night. I thought it was a tremendous show. Obviously you've watched it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the segments between Inner Circle and Pinnacle. To me, I mean, the parlay was so excellent and should be the goal for any go home promo or segment in terms of conveying the urgency and importance of a major match. And I thought the promos for each of the guys between the two factions was tremendous, and it kind of gets me that urgency and that excitement for what's gonna be going on at Blood and Guts. So I'm actually really looking forward to that Dynamite between the two factions.
Yeah, I mean, first thing I gotta say is I'm really upset because I was supposed to get Blood and Guts myself. I had tickets for Newark, New
Oh
Jersey.
no.
That was supposed
Yeah.
to be the show. I mean, back then it was like I forgot who was scheduled for that. I think it was like Cody and the Nightmare Family. That was supposed to be the original Blood and Guts, but obviously it changed. So I'm a little upset, and I actually still have those tickets. I haven't refunded them. So Cody promised we're gonna get something big eventually whenever that Newark show happens. But as far as this show goes, I'm really excited for this. The promo was great. The parlay. The people that should have talked are the ones that talked. Like I'm happy that like Jake Hager didn't just say something just to say it. Like they kept him quiet, and I feel like that's good. Not that he's like the worst talker, but I feel like the right people that hyped this match were the ones that talked. Obviously the line to Sean Spears was
By
crazy.
Sammy Guevara, him
Yeah,
saying that you were a failure where you used to work at too. I was like, damn, you're getting up there,
like
dude.
that's the one thing I gotta give up to AEW is the fact that it's not scripted. I mean, not it doesn't work all the time. Trust me, there's been plenty of times where it's unscripted. I'm like,
Absolutely.
yeah, that just didn't work. But in this instance, it definitely worked. Santana, I can't continue. I can't even say how much like this guy is great. Like when he eventually becomes like a star on his own, he's gonna be a breakout star. I love Santana. Every time he talks, I'm just like, this guy is a freaking star. But yeah, I'm really excited for this Blood and Guts. I'm just interested, like this is like their first like match is gonna be a Blood and Guts. So like, is this gonna be a blow off or where do you go from here? Because like, how do you top
Mm.
that? If the Pinnacle does win by underhanded means or whatever, what do you do after that? Like, I mean, it's already the big blow off. Like
Right.
me personally, when I remember War Games was like the final blow off. That's like the final thing after all these
Oh yeah,
singles
yeah,
matches
absolutely.
and constant interference. And I feel like this feud kind of just started in a way. I know it's obviously been bubbling up for a while with MJF, but like the actual Pinnacle versus Inner Circle 5-on-5 war, like literally just started. So to feel like to kind of go into Blood and Guts or War Games, it
Like, what
feels
else
a
can
little
you
bit.
do after that? It's like I
That's what I'm
feel you. Like,
saying. Like,
do you have to go
yeah,
cinematic after this, or like what do you do?
I honestly don't know. That's like my only like real negative about it is like I understand why they want to do it because they promised Blood and Guts such a long time ago, and this is a perfect feud for it.
Yeah, it's
Um, but
understandable.
I
Yeah,
but I feel like there really isn't no way to top this. Like you're gonna like, do this and then what? Go to a Jericho MJF singles match? Like it doesn't. Something about that just feels a little backwards. But other than that, like the segment was awesome. A lot of things were really good on this show. Dynamite in general. I highly enjoyed the Pentagon
That was a
Orange
tremendous
Cassidy match was
Yeah.
great. Even the first match, like it was quick, it was about 5 minutes with Brian Cage and Hangman
And
Page. This
Hangman
shocked
Page,
me. I
yeah.
couldn't believe it. Like he hit him with the drill claw, and my first thought was, wow, Hangman's gonna kick out of the drill claw. And no, he didn't kick out. And I was like, whoa. So that like really like that really surprised me to have like Brian Cage get the win over that. One little negative is I like the whole SCU going after the Young Bucks, but the thing is like they've been ranked number one for a while now, and like I don't understand. Me personally, I don't understand why they have to go through this eliminator 4-way tag match when they're already number one contenders.
Yeah, when they're already the number one contenders.
Yeah, that's like you know their rankings have been kind of hit or miss as far as like them actually going by it or not. But yeah, overall the show was a good show, and it's funny because usually the tape dynamites are the ones that don't really hit for me because you don't have the fans there, you don't really have like that same feel as a live show. That's something about a live show. Even if they don't
it's
tell
something
you
about
it's
a
live
live show that really feels like
Yeah.
authentic, and you're emotionally invested in it, and you have that hype in your system when you see like a live show.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why like I'm really looking forward to the Blood and Guts show because that's going to be live. Even the show after that, they said it's going to be live. The May 12th show, which has Nagata and Moxley, which is going to be amazing.
Oh my gosh, for the IWGP US Championship that's coming up in a few weeks, and at least we're getting something out of this this new AEW relationship with New Japan. Like we just had Kushida, not Kushida, Kenta. What did I say that there? With Kenta and John Moxley, and seeing those two on New Japan Strong for the title, which is pretty excellent. So, man, it's going to be interesting to see Yuji Nagata, one of my favorites when I first saw him against Kurt Angle a decade ago when they were in the Tokyo Dome. So it's going to be very interesting to watch, dude.
Yeah, with New Japan Strong getting like their own official title now, with Tom Lawler carrying the Strong Openweight title, I feel like now they have more wiggle room as far as like what they could do with the US title. So yeah, maybe it'll end up being like a Dynamite regular. I know Braden brought up the idea on Up Next of like Kenny Omega wanted to go after it. Like, oh, I want that title because he's the belt collector. So I can see maybe the US title becoming another like major prop on Dynamite, or even having a guy to win it and bring it back to Japan. There's so much you could do with that. But now Strong was a really good show, but I feel like they had all this build. Like Kenta was carrying this briefcase for like months and months, and he never got to cash it in. And I thought we're gonna, get that match. And we finally got the match with Kenta and Moxley, but I feel like that was the only time people ever watched Strong, when they found out Moxley was on it. So yeah, I'm really excited for the Yuji Nagata match, and I'm hoping that this brings up more New Japan guys can come over, not only to Dynamite, but have them come over to like MLW or a Impact Wrestling or NWA even. NWA is like one of the shows that I watch every week, every Tuesday. I watch Power, and like almost nobody is talking about it, which kind of sucks.
Like considering how when Power first started back in October 2019, like it was tremendous, and you got Jim Cornette on commentary, you got Nick Aldis as the champion. There was a lot, like a certain buzz on that show, and you got great talent like like with Evilise and Trevor Murdoch as well, and that's where Eddie Kingston was as well, and
Eddie Kingston, Thunder Rosa,
and then after it was the pandemic where they unfortunately had to take a break, and they're trying to get that momentum going back, but it's an uphill climb, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the lockdown hurt them. Also, the fact that they moved from YouTube to Fight, it's a lot less eyes. True, yeah. Even though it's only like $5 a month on Fight, like people just, if it's not free, they're not going to watch it. Like they're accustomed to watching MLW every week because it's free on YouTube. So maybe they did that with NWA as well. And then obviously they lost a lot of talent. Like you said, they lost Eddie Kingston. Thunder Rosa is still there, but a lot of the other like women they like had left or got signed elsewhere. So they lost a nice chunk of their
Melina,
actual talent. Yep.
Yeah, kind of unfortunate thing, because I really enjoyed that product, because I was like, when I heard from John and Wai when they were covering it regularly, like, it was like kind of like that old school wrestling feeling, like definitely came from Crockett Promotions back in the 80s, and looking back at those old archives, like just a tremendous stuff, and just being real authentic in their promos and all that. So that was a tremendous product. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We'll get to some of the other promotions in just a little bit. I got to say with AEW, it feels so great to have an alternative again to WWE, because it feels like maybe in like the 2000s and the early 2000s there was kind of like a lull in the wrestling industry. Not many people were paying attention to it as much. You only got WWE, which was the dominant force for so many years after WCW closed down, and it all went downhill from there, pretty much in terms of like popularity. Not as much like not as much variety in some of their programming. So to be honest with you, like I'm kind of happy that we finally have another big national promotion with top notch network with a top notch network backing them after so many
No,
years. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously, Impact had its like TNA days where it was heading in the right direction, but obviously it had a lot of things they did that kind of drew away a lot of fans, and
Hogan
obviously
and Bischoff.
and then it didn't help that they kept jumping from network to network. Where if you ask somebody now, they might not even know if it's are they on Papa, they're on Destination America, they're on Access.
Yeah.
I don't even get Access myself, honestly. I have to like.
Oh, me neither.
I
Yeah.
have to either watch Impact live on Twitch every week, which sucks while I'm trying to do a report, or watch it after the fact on Impact Plus. So obviously Impact was like the next thing after WCW, but then it kind of obviously had its issues. So yeah, I'm happy to see like an AEW being a big network and see wrestling on TNT again. Like this is what I was talking about before with the Monday Night Wars. I had wrestling on USA, I had wrestling on TNT. It's been thrown around obviously with this new deal with the NHL and TNT of what nights to throw. If they were have to move, would an AEW go on a Monday night? I know Tony Khan said he doesn't want to do that, obviously, with Monday Night Football and him running the Jaguars. But me in the back of my head, I'm like, I wouldn't mind like an experiment or trying Dynamite on a Monday. Number one, I want to see how much of the Raw audience will not watch Raw and watch Dynamite, obviously. But then I want to see WWE pressured. I want to see them having competition down their throat to the fact where they have to change it up and do things. I mean, look what happened during the Attitude Era. They had Nitro here, beating them 83 weeks in a row, and then WWE had to change and adapt to the times. So I kind of want that to happen because Raw is obviously the worst show out there, like no, hands down.
That's an understatement, dude.
It sucks because I like NXT. SmackDown's,
SmackDown's getting better.
Yeah, SmackDown's usually really good, and Raw, for whatever reason, they just don't.
I don't understand. Like, how is SmackDown so good? Like, I enjoy it every week. I actually started back to watching SmackDown for the past couple of months, and they're improving. And how is SmackDown so good and Raw is so ass, dude? I just don't understand.
Sucks. Like Raw is like one of the few shows where I don't watch live. Like I just can't. I can't save myself through 3 hours doing commercials. So either I'll watch it on delay, or I have as Post Wrestling they can talk about this new tool that I started using where you could do 2x speed on pretty much any browser. So I started doing that with Raw. I'm not even watching the show at normal times. I can't even like without the commercials.
You don't even need to watch Raw all 3 hours to keep up with what's going on. Like you can just watch the pay-per-views and you can get caught up. Yeah.
We have to understand, Jake, like I'm a completionist. I've never missed an episode of Raw, believe it or not. Never. Like even if I have to watch it on 2x speed, or I have always watched Raw from the beginning to end. Pretty much every wrestling show I've watched. So I can't like not watch an episode. I know it seems weird because the shows are so bad. Even if I'm kind of like watching with one eye here and the other eye on my phone, at least I know what's going on. So I feel like as a completionist, I need to watch Raw no matter how bad it is. And it sucks because I don't want to watch it, but I have in my head I have to. It's part of like who I am.
It's turned into like a habit, which is pretty understandable, yeah.
But like I said, I'll never watch it live. Like it'll be like 7:59. I'm like watching a movie and I'm like, should I turn it off and watch Raw? It's like, no, I don't want to watch Raw. So I'll keep watching the movie, and then I'll start watching Raw like 9:30 at 2x speed or whatever, just so I can see what's going on, or even the next day. It's not like a priority to me. Raw used to always be a priority. SmackDown, on the other hand, like it'll be a Friday night, and I'll put it on. I'll have it on. It's an enjoyable show. It's 2 hours. It's it doesn't like upset me. It doesn't get me angry. But Raw is so yeah. So back to the original point. Like I feel like just as an experiment, have an AEW on a Monday night, maybe a couple days out of the week when like there's a NHL playoffs going on, or there's no other night that they can use. I wouldn't, not like I'd be okay with that idea, just to see like what WWE does and how the audience itself splits amongst the two products.
Well, here's the thing. As you remember, TNA did that 10 years ago where they moved to Monday nights, and that didn't really work well. What do you think the difference would be if they try to if AEW tries to attempt this?
Honestly, I mean, Raw wasn't like perfect back then, but I feel like it had definitely a lot more going for it than it does now. Like you still had a lot of big stars back then. If I'm not mistaken, that was like the time. It was like 2010 that happened, right around that time.
Obviously, Cena was still around. Yeah.
Yeah, you had Cena. You had all your like your major players for the most part. So I feel like they definitely had more going for them. Now, for the fact that there's no fans there, it might be a good time to strike while the iron's hot for AEW to kind of try to capitalize and see exactly how much of a chunk you're gonna get. Can AEW, as long as they stay around the million mark on a Monday, I think they can do it, honestly, especially if they have like a lot of big stars. They have I think they have a lot bigger stars than TNA had at the time. As far as like wrestling wise, or more popular guys. So I can see them just trying it, just for like, it doesn't have to be a permanent thing, but like just try it a couple days just to
like
see,
every once in a while. I get you. Yeah.
I'm just curious to see how many people were just honestly tired of Raw, and it's like, you know what, I'm not even gonna watch it. I'm gonna put on Dynamite, and then imagine having a show of Dynamite and they promote the return of Samoa Joe or something like that'll blow Raw out the water, I think. And then like it'll have to force Raw to do something. They might have to call up old Phil Brooks or something. Even if they have some sort of trick in their back pocket, would be the only way to like even compete with AEW. But yeah, I feel like now like the fact that the Raw audience is going lower and lower every year, I feel like it might be a good time for AEW to at least attempt it. But it's hard, like Tony Khan with the whole like I said, the Jaguars on Monday Night Football. He might not want to do that. But like, what other night is there? Let's just say
Friday.
hypothetically AEW has to move Friday. Yeah, that's like the only real night because you got Tuesdays and Thursdays are NBA. Wednesdays would be hockey. So yeah, Friday, and it's like, if I was AEW, I'd rather go up against Raw than SmackDown.
Oh yeah, considering SmackDown is on Raw, SmackDown is on Fox, and you got more of, and it's national TV, it's over the air. You got a million more viewers, obviously, so that could be more of a challenge. Yeah,
exactly. And the fact, like you said, they're on Fox opposed to a channel that's on cable. I feel like SmackDown might not be the best head-to-head, but a Raw, I think they can actually do that. They can actually compete with them.
Interesting points there. So we'll see what's been coming up in the next couple of months. We'll stay tuned for that. Let's get outside the main promotions. Obviously, you do Shot in the Dark. What is definitely catching your eye outside the major promotions? For me personally, I've been definitely enjoying New Japan Strong, especially since the Kenta Moxley match, and they've been definitely doing some great stuff, especially with the New Japan Strong title tournaments, and you got Tom Lawler winning the New Japan Strong Championship, and so it's been great having an NJPW World subscription, because I always get to enjoy their archives and some of their big shows in Japan and all that. So hopefully we'll get more out of this AEW New Japan partnership. Hopefully we'll go to the Tokyo Dome for Wrestle Kingdom and all that. And also Ring of Honor. I've been I've been a huge Ring of Honor fan for a couple years now, and I think it was during the pandemic where they had the pure title tournaments, and just like excellent technical wrestling, and they had a little bit of a buzz towards it. Like some people were talking about it since how great the matches were. MLW, it's kind of hit and miss for me. I do like the stuff what Tom Lawler was doing for the past couple months. Impact. I know I still have kind of like a bitterness of Impact, because their parent company Anthem Sports Entertainment, as I was a huge fan of live audio wrestling with the old gang, and it's kind of fortunate that had like a direct correlation to the cancellation of the loss. So, but I'm trying to get back into Impact, and I kind of enjoy what Kenny Omega's doing over there, and having Finjuice over there from New Japan really caught my eye into it. So, what's been catching your eye outside the major promotions, man?
Yeah, what's funny is like ever since the lockdown started, like when the idea of Shot in the Dark started, there wasn't this many shows. It was like a couple shows. It was like AEW Dark, and then you have like maybe like 205 Live or Ring of Honor. Ring of Honor wasn't even back then. And then like as I started doing the show, more and more shows started coming back. Ring of Honor came back, NWA came back, and I'm like, I gotta, like I said, I'm a completionist, so I need to watch all these shows. But like I always treat like the shows that I cover are kind of like a separate universe, called like the Shot in the Dark universe, because like there's a lot of people that will be on one show and then they'll show up on another show. You have like AEW, MLW, Impact sharing talent, so it's kind of cool to see like different people under different promotions. Like for example, Tom Lawler, he's one person on the MLW, and then he has a totally different group in New Japan Pro Wrestling Strong. Then like Chris Dickinson is in Ring of Honor with Brody King, but then he's feuding with him on New Japan Pro Wrestling. So things like that are pretty cool. And now they started to actually like use those storylines. Like Tom Lawler confronted Chris Dickinson saying, "Hey, listen, I'm associated with him on Ring of Honor, but over here you're not." So I like that. But my favorite part is honestly watching a lot of like the new talent. Just new names or names that I might have remembered like from Evolve when I used to go to the Evolve shows. Like Adrian Adonis and Liam Gray. Those are dudes I used to literally hang out with at the Evolve shows, and now they're showing up on AEW Dark. I'm like, this is awesome. So it's pretty cool that there's all these different outlets for talents to wrestle at. And then I also like wrestling that's different. Obviously, like you mentioned, the Pure Rules tournament. The Pure Rules matches in general are just different. The fact they have different regulations and rules. And obviously there's a stink on NXT UK, but honestly, one of my favorite parts of it is the Heritage Cup rules, because they have like these British round
Oh
rules
yeah.
where it's totally different. It's like 5 rounds and you have like these different rules, and that's like actually gets me motivated to watch it and actually pay attention more, because it's not like you put a match on
It's
after one, two,
different.
three, it's
Yeah.
over. It's a lot different. So I kind of feel bad for NXT UK, not like the promotion or WWE, but some of the talent, because I feel like some of this talent is totally guilty and had nothing to do with anything. And now just people aren't really even paying attention to them because of obviously the whole stink of it. So there's a lot of good talent that I see in NXT UK that I feel like could move over to stateside. And like a Ilya Dragunov is one of my favorite wrestlers. And whenever
Mhm.
he's on TV or NXT UK, I'm like, this is a must see match. So
Anything
just
Walter,
names.
anything Walter Russell's. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anytime Walter
exactly.
Russell, especially during the last takeover, like, they kept him special.
Yeah, then you have your women's division. You have Isla Dawn, you got Amelia McKenzie, you got Mako Satomura, Kaylee Ray. There's a lot of like great talent over there to keep watching. But yeah, my favorite part is watching new talent. And like I watch an AEW Dark and I'll look at the card and it's like, oh, who's this name? And I don't know who this name is. And one of the things that I like to do for the Shot in the Dark is whenever somebody debuts on any show, I like to do a little bit of research. Like for example, some new tag team might debut on AEW Dark, and I look them up, and next thing you know, they've been teaming up in the Indies for 5 years, but I'd never heard of them. Like a Bear Country, I had no idea who a
Mhm.
Bear Country was, and now I talk about them a little bit, and then the next thing you know, they get signed by AEW. So it's pretty cool
There
to
you
see
go.
like your kids in a way get appreciated and they get signed. Like I was a big proponent for Red Velvet, Powerhouse Hobbs, like all these people that I've seen come through the AEW Dark that actually get signed and show up on Dynamite is awesome to me. So that's my favorite part, is kind of just seeing like the evolution and growth of a lot of these wrestlers.
And especially wrestling in Japan as well. Like they've definitely had some of their moments as well. Not just New Japan Pro Wrestling, but obviously through Shot in the Dark, I started to pay attention more of All Japan. Where you got the Triple Crown champion Kento Miyahara, and then you got the Champions Carnival tournaments, which is their version of the G1. I started taking a look at some of their matches on AJPW.TV. I was like, dang, yeah, this is a really interesting the style that they're putting there. It's really different from New Japan, and they have some great names there like Jake Lee, Suwama as well, and also in Noah we got Go Shiozaki. They put the main title on Kaiji Muto, which I'm personally not a fan of, but it puts a big name on there. So even wrestling in Japan, they started to get some momentum in there. So because like at times I feel like New Japan, there it's like a roller coaster. At times, like I'm a huge New Japan Pro Wrestling fan ever since Wrestle Kingdom 9 when Jim Ross and Matt Striker was calling it, and you got Tanahashi and Okada in the main event. I just feel like in the past, like probably during the pandemic, it's not their fault and all that, but at times there's a little too much faction interference with the Bullet Club. But this year's Wrestle Kingdom was still tremendous and still one of the best shows of the year. So yeah, wrestling in Japan is like starting getting more into it, and special, and also reviewing with Braden and Davey. It's really fun to watch that, dude.
No, for sure. I mean, there's obviously so much wrestling that I can't watch everything, but if I hear
Yeah.
about some big card or big match in a Noah or Old Japan, I'll definitely go out of my way to watch it. I listen to Post PRSU and hear John and WH kind of mention something, so I'll definitely go out of my way to watch it. But I can't put like another show. Like I'm kind of dreading the fact that like there might be another AEW third hour somewhere,
Oh
or
yeah.
maybe like this whatever this Diamond Mine things that NXT is talking about. There's rumor that it might be a show. So I'm getting back in my head. I'm like, can I even watch any more wrestling? Like,
Yeah, or
I'm
like
actually very
NXT
happy.
Evolve or something, or they might be looking
Yeah,
at. Yeah.
like I mean, what MLW is doing is great in a couple ways. Number one, they're gonna have an off season. I'm not sure if you know that, but next week is
Oh
like
yeah,
the season finale. They're not
season
gonna come back
finale.
till July. So that's number one. That's good for me. That I don't have to worry about covering it for a couple months. So I get a little bit of a break, but then it's good for the wrestlers to kind of like just have some time off. Like I've always been a proponent of like an off season in wrestling. Like obviously a WWE is never gonna do it, but I feel like with all these promotions, everybody was forced to have an off season. Impact had to go on hiatus. Ring of Honor had to. MLW had to. New Japan
NWA
had
had
to.
to, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much everybody did, with the exception of AEW and WWE. I think every other promotion was, took a couple months off. I feel like that might be a normal thing, and I feel like house shows in general might just be done for, because the
Yeah,
fact that like
what is the value of house shows anymore, to be honest
to
with you?
make it was to make money for the
Yeah,
most part. Obviously, you have all these fans coming in. You're obviously making money for the arenas. You're making money on concessions,
sure.
merchandise, and all that. So it was mostly about making money. But it took a toll on a lot of these wrestlers. I mean, I've been watching these biographies with Roddy Piper and Dark Side of the Rings. You hear all these stories about wrestlers being away from their family and traveling, and the wear and tear to their bodies and their minds.
Being away for
Um,
300 days of the year, and I was listening to Meltzer and Alvarez talking about like the rough schedule back in the day. It's like, man, the house shows, and then you got wrestlers looking like zombies because they had little to no sleep because they're always traveling and they're always away from their families. I was like, dude, man, like how how Vince got away with this, and then you got the result of the steroid, result of the drugs. I mean, I think that was the reason. I think that was like the result of it is like you got to be in so much painkillers and medications to keep yourself sane during these hefty road schedules, man.
Yeah, I hear like I listen to some podcasts, like for example, like the New Day, for example. You hear like the joy in Kofi and Xavier's voices, the fact that they're home with their families and kids and get to be, have all this time with them. Like that's great. Like that's one of my favorite parts of. It sucks to say like your favorite part of lockdown because it's not a good thing. But one of my favorite things was the fact that my son, even though he was doing Zoom calls every day, I had him with me. He was with me for 5 days of the week. So that's great. The fact that you're blessed with all this time, you're forced to in a way. So I feel like house shows either might be chopped down in size or just a thing of the past. Like I feel like it might not be a necessity for any promotion, honestly. Obviously, your indie shows have to kind of survive by doing show to show, but like a WWE or AEW, they might not have to even do a house show. Once in a while, it would be cool, like a cool special event at like Madison Square Garden or something. But you don't need to have like two show like Monday Night Raw is going on while SmackDown has a house show. That like why would you do things like that? I mean, I understand it's making money and all that, but I feel like they're at a point now where they probably don't even have to travel and just do all this stuff.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely some interesting points there. So we have several minutes left, so because I know you have some stuff going on, so let's keep it short here before we wrap up. But yeah, like you've been obviously you've been not just a fan of the in-ring content, but also I've been getting involved behind the scenes as well. I've been listening to the Law for about almost a decade now, with not just John and Way, but also Agnew and Lavransky, and obviously Braden coming in just shortly after that. So yeah,
Oh, me too, man. I used to call it the title bout trivia and have to, I want a T-shirt from Jason Agnew. Send me a shirt. So I'll be going, yeah, Law days, me as well, man. I've been listening since way back then.
Yes, and actually, it was the Law that introduced me to Dave Meltzer and got me to subscribing to the Wrestling Observer newsletter for, I think it's been about a couple years now. So I really love what's been going on. Reading his reports and reading some of the scoops behind the scenes. So it got me like I know it's like kind of like conflicting at times. Like wrestling is so special that you don't want to like learn what's going on behind the scenes at times. But it it really increased my appreciation for wrestling and getting to know what's been going on behind the scenes, some of the latest scoops and all that. So yeah, not just like being focused on the kayfabe stuff, stuff all the time, just getting to see what happens behind the curtain every once in a while. So yeah, also that and the Observer and the Torch and all that, and listening to various podcasts like the Law back in the day, Sunday Night's Main Event, Post Wrestling Now, you guys with Up Next now, as well as the Voices of Wrestling podcast as well, and obviously the wrestler centric podcast like the Steve Austin Show, Talk is Jericho, and then you got Renee Paquette's new podcast, Oral Sessions, getting to hear stories of some of the big stuff back in the day, as well as like you got Conrad Thompson, and I don't know how he continues to do it. He's just filling his schedule up with various podcasts. Like now he's got Jeff Jarrett in his network now. You got Kurt Angle, and obviously you got Bruce Pritchard, Tony Schiavone, and Jim Ross for Conrad Thompson to get to deal with these multiple personalities. So I love hearing those stuff. Do you also get to listen to some podcasts every once in a while too?
Not as much as I used to. Like pretty much everything you mentioned, I used to listen to all that at one point. When I was working and more out and about, I used to just put a podcast on and throw it on. But now it's like with being home more, it's kind of to me personally, it feels weird sitting down and listening to something. I have to be out of the bed. I have to be walking somewhere or going somewhere, going to work and back. So
for me, it has to be like a bike ride or being the bus or just walking by the lakefront to listen to some wrestling podcasts.
Absolutely. I used to like take the train all the time and I used to just throw on a podcast or two and listen to it. So I used to listen to all those shows. I used to listen to back in the day, Wade Keller and Brian Alvarez and Meltzer and the Law. And obviously now it's a little bit tougher. Like I even have a hard time trying to keep up with Post Wrestling and Up Next now because like I'm doing all these shows and everything. So I try to. Obviously, if it's something that I hear is a really good show, I'll go out of my way to listen to. But like shout out to like Andrew Thompson. He breaks down all these podcasts. Like you look at the news updates and he'll go through all the different podcasts and what they say and everything. So I'm glad I have like a resource like that to actually look at. But yeah, I try to, but I can't listen to a podcast as much as I used to, man. Like the time that I have to kind of like either is it wrestling and am I watching shows, am I listening to shows, or do I just want to sometimes just watch a regular movie or something? So I have to do that as well. I have this Twitch show I do with Mike Hogan for the Up Next Twitch every week
Yeah.
now. The other guys where we talk about movies and stuff. So now I'm watching more movies and shows on the regular. I have to watch the movie tomorrow with Michael B. Jordan on Amazon that I probably wouldn't have watched before, but now I know it's like homework. I have to watch it tomorrow morning so I can talk about it tomorrow afternoon.
Same
So
thing
yeah,
goes
man,
same thing goes for our good friend Wade Ting. Like, he has other interests. Like, he said himself, like, he has other interests besides wrestling. So that's when he created the MCU reviews and MCU later with WH Park and all that. So
yeah, and I love those shows. I mean, the fact that like it's voices that I know, because in a way, it's like these are my friends. These are guys that I know. These are guys that I met that I listen to religiously every day. So to have them talk about something outside of wrestling is so refreshing. So I love Total Recall with Wayne and Pauline. I love MCU Later. I love like all these shows where it's people that I know. That's why when the Patreon started with Davey and Braden, I was so happy to talk about all these different crap movies that people request, like Catwoman,
oh
or
gosh.
tomorrow we're gonna talk about The Outsiders, which is a really great '80s movie. So it's like I love the fact that they can talk about things outside of wrestling, but still like they're gonna have wrestling terms in there because like that's just the way you are. So
It's
you
just
talk about a
ingrained in
movie,
us. So
yeah, so it's like you'll talk about like Catwoman having a heel turn. It's like you'll understand it because you're a wrestling fan. If somebody outside of wrestling tries to listen to it, they'll be like, "What are these guys talking about?" Like, like she
that's
has a
true.
lot of
So
heat and things like that. So it's kind of cool to see like your friends, as they say, review all these outside wrestling things. But yeah, man, as far as listening to other podcasts, I really don't have time. I listen to a lot of like movie podcasts, believe it or not. Like I listen to this one podcast called Now Playing where they review like every new movie that comes out, and it's like I'll listen to it and they can recommend what's new and what's not. So yeah, man,
yeah.
I try as much as possible.
Yeah, for me, I got to use a variety of other podcasts as well outside of wrestling. For me being a huge sports fan, try to get listen to some of the ESPN podcasts, and also for hockey, getting to listen to Jeff Merrick and Elliot Friedman on 31 Thoughts, their podcast on Sportsnet. So just trying to keep up with the NHL, because like those are the three sports I usually watch. Like it's hockey, MMA, or pro wrestling. So that's why I try to like balance all those three out. So do you are you a fan of any other sports too?
Not as much as I used to. I used to be a huge baseball fan. I used to be a big Mets fan and go to the games and everything. It's been tough lately. Obviously when you don't go to the events, I feel like you kind of lose a lot out of it. And then
Mm.
like I feel like growing up with a lot of different friends that would kind of like the same that you do would kind of make you watch it. And now it's like most of my friends, they just watch wrestling. So that's why I watch now. So I kind of like go with what I can. But I used to be a huge Mets fan.
I mean, they are decent.
Football as
They are
well.
still decent these days. The Mets like try to keep up with baseball. So
Yeah, for sure. So hopefully once like stadiums are back to normal, I used to take my son all the time to City Field and all that. So once you actually go to the events, you get more like accustomed to it. And obviously when your team is in the playoffs, you really get invested in it as well. So not as much as I used to, but if I had to pick like probably baseball and football would be like my favorite sports. I used to really be big into like UFC, believe it or not. Like this is like back when like Brock
oh,
Lesnar
okay.
was fighting and all that. I used to watch it like all the time. But I feel like I don't know, I couldn't I kind of fell out of it for a little bit. But obviously there's a big fight. I'll definitely watch it. Same
Whenever
thing with
McGregor
boxing. If there's
fights and all that, so
yeah, same thing with boxing. It's a big event. I'll definitely watch it. So, at the end of the day, like I said, I listen to post wrestling so much that if John Pollock recommends a MMA fight or a boxing fight, I'll definitely watch it.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's become the authority of wrestling now. John Pollock. He's probably up there with Dave Meltzer. Like it's always those two I always rely on for for wrestling news and all that. And yeah, those two like John is like an actual journalist. Like he breaks news and he has sources and he has great scoops. So like this guy, he has such a tremendous knowledge, and also for like the history of wrestling. As well, he has an incredible wealth of knowledge of what goes on in the territories back in the day. So yeah, I got to give it to John. Like he's like I don't know how he does it. It's like he's just a tremendous wealth of knowledge. He's an encyclopedia.
Oh yeah, like when it comes to like wrestling news, I see all these like rumors on Twitter. I don't even follow that unless I see it on Post Wrestling. Then I know it's official or it's been confirmed. Like I feel like there's so many shady sites out there that all use clickbait. I'm not
True.
really
Yeah.
with that. I used to be big into that when I was like in school. I used to always be on all these like dirt sheets and all that. I used to live and die for that, buying PWIs and all that. I was all about that. But now it's like there's so much
It's
stuff going
become
on.
so it's become so toxic with
Yeah,
the social,
not only
especially in the social media community, where it's like so much like there's you have to pick this side and then this side. It's
yeah,
become so like
not
ingrained.
only that, but everybody's trying to like rush for the first scoop that they're giving misinformation or they're just giving the wrong information in general to the point where it's like I'm not even going to believe anything I read unless I know for a fact that it's coming from a reliable source, like a John Pollock, for example.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh yeah. So thanks so much, man. So just one more question before we end here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put you on the spot right now.
Sure.
I'll do it myself too. Give me a list of a few matches that were your favorite of all time.
Ooh, that's tough. Um, my heart wants to say British and Owen at WrestleMania 10
Oh,
because I was
Bulldog and Owen.
there.
Okay.
No, sorry, Bret Hart and
Oh,
Owen,
Brett and
brother
Owen.
versus
Okay.
brother. Yeah, WrestleMania 10. Bret versus Bulldog is another one at SummerSlam. Trying to think of more recent matches. Bailey and Sasha at
Mm,
Takeover Brooklyn
that's a
for
tremendous
sure.
match. Yeah.
Most of the matches that I'm picking are going to be shows that I'm at because I feel like you have like that reaction when you actually witness it. CM Punk and John Cena stands out. Money in the Bank. How many was that? 4 right there. I'm trying to think of something else. Can I just go with those 4? I don't want to just say something just to
Oh
say
yeah,
it, but yeah, those are
that's
my
good, man.
4 matches. Yeah, Bret Owen, Bret Bulldog, Bailey and Sasha, and CM Punk and John Cena.
Yep, CM Punk, John Cena, Money in the Bank. I was there. I was 14 at the time, and it was it was magical that night. Just seeing like those guys, CM Punk and John Cena, they have tremendous chemistry with each other in the ring, and just calling each other with each other's moves. And yeah, it was an amazing match. Not only that, obviously Okada and Omega, the 60-minute match from Dominion back in 2018. What else do I have? Uh, as far as old school, I loved Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair, the trilogy match back in '89, as well. Uh, and mostly that, and I think a more recent match would definitely be John Moxley and Tomohiro Ishii, just like which is right before the pandemic. So that was like a tremendous match, like really hard hitting, a great brawl, and all that. So that was definitely a tremendous match there. So those are my
What do you
4.
think? What's your favorite match in the pandemic era, like with no crowds?
In the pandemic era. For well, I mean, some people might disagree with me, but it's definitely the Boneyard match. To be honest with you, with AJ Styles and
Okay.
Undertaker.
I honestly, if I had to pick one, like one of my favorite matches in the last year or in general, was Walter and Dragunov in NXT
That's
UK.
a tremendous
Like
match. Yeah.
that match, I watched that so many times, like with no audience whatsoever, and just hearing the sounds of all the chops and moves. I freaking love that match. I'm
Oh,
happy it won like best match ever. I think
yeah.
for the BDE did it. I think
I think it was
the
a
best
BDE.
match of
Yeah.
the year. Yeah.
But and not only just that, the commentary from Nigel McGuinness, he called it like it was an actual MMA fighter. So,
Yeah.
MMA fighter. It was from like how Joe Rogan calls the UFC fights. Like it was like he definitely put those two guys over with that match, and that definitely adds some emphasis on that.
Yeah, I'm hoping that Dragunov is like the breakout star of the year. I think he needs to come over here stateside and have some bangers on NXT.
So that's there you go, guys. That's some of our favorite matches. And John, thanks so much for taking the time out of your schedule to talk with me today. It's been a pleasure, and hopefully we can talk again sometime.
Well, absolutely. Thanks for the time, Jake. Thank you.
All right, absolutely. And thanks you guys for watching us, taking the time out to just to view us, and we'll be coming out with some new content very soon. So thanks so much. Goodbye, everybody. We'll talk to you some other time. Don't you dare miss it.